Good morning, everyone. Welcome to How Calvient Slashes the No-Show Rate. I hope you're doing well this morning. I hope it's warmer wherever you're at than it is here in Oklahoma City, where Calvient's based, where the snow is coming down right outside my window. So happy you could join us today. Take a look at the chat section. Devin has posted some instructions on asking questions. If you have questions, feel free to post those under the questions section. Also, we're recording this webinar, so if you have to drop off at any time, there will be a recording available to you once we dismiss. Again, we're very excited to have you here, and we're ready to get this thing out there so you can take a look and see how what we've built here can impact your organization. We're going to talk specifically about the no-show rate and the impact that a patient engagement module can have on your organization's no-show rate. And I want to start by talking about why this matters. A few years ago, we helped a mid-sized physician's practice implement a patient engagement specifically around reminders tool. And they had done some internal research, and they had found that for every 1% no-show reduction drop that they could obtain, so if they went from, let's say, 10% to 9%, for every 1%, that would translate into roughly $1 million in annual savings. And that's because they could backfill those slots. They didn't have empty time throughout the day. They could fill in those empty spots. They didn't have patients that would become lost to follow. They could have, of course, whatever treatment they needed in a timely manner. And what we found by implementing a patient engagement module, like we'll show today, that they were able to obtain a 1.5% reduction in their no-show rate month over month. And today they enjoy no-show rates around 5%, well below the average of roughly 10% that you'll see across the industry. So that's why this matters. So as we're going through this, I'd like you to think about your own organization and if you know what your no-show rate is, and if you don't, we'll talk about how you can come to that number. If you know what your no-show rate is, and think about for every 1% reduction, what type of savings does that translate into for our organization? Now, I want you to think about your appointment reminder solution as it exists today. And if you have one, let's assume you're using big box reminder retailer, and you've got some process where they get maybe some type of upload from your IT team. They send over an upload of the next 2 weeks worth of appointments, and then you just hope for the best. You hope that they're making phone calls. You hope that they're sending text messages. You hope that they're sending emails. And if the patient responds to those emails, or if they tap 1, 2, or 3 on the phone call to either confirm or cancel or reschedule, you're just hoping for the best. Are you getting that information back inside of Cerner? Well, what we found with the organization that we helped implement our solution with is they didn't. What they got instead was an email, a spreadsheet sent to them every day of all of the call responses. This particular big box vendor wasn't even sending emails. And then they were responsible for taking that spreadsheet, dividing it up across their organization, and emailing that to all the teams. By the time that very cumbersome process was done, the patient's appointment had come and gone. The no-show had happened. It was too late. And so all we could really worry about at that point was, is this patient lost to follow? Or are they done? Are they outside of the care of our system at this point? Is that a situation that sounds familiar to you, or are you fortunate enough to get all of the patient engagement information back into your Cerner system? Well, that's what we want to talk about, and that's what we're going to showcase, because Calvient has built the world's only patient engagement platform specifically for Cerner shops. If you go to our website, you'll see Cerner all over it. We don't really market to any other EHR. We built our engagement module to sit within the Cerner Millennium ecosystem as seamlessly as possible, and we'll show you that today so that you can get all that information back real time. There's no guessing, and you can get that no-show rate down and save your organization money. What if you could do that? Imagine how your organization would change if every phone call, every email, every text message went out, that went straight back into your EHR real time, and you didn't have to worry about some manual process. So let's showcase that now. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a live demonstration of the Calvient Channels module, which is our patient engagement platform. I'm going to start here on our home screen. This home screen, I want to call out that this is a screen that you would get for free. Now, we're in our dev non-production site, so you don't see any real data here. But we're offering, as a part of this engagement, a free no-show assessment. That is, we'll plug into your Cerner system. We'll give you the CCLs you need. You drop those in, and you'll get this dashboard so you can get a synopsis of your no-show rate across your organization. Get this for free. That's a part of what we're offering for anyone who reaches out to us this month. So you can see here across the top, if I had production data, you would see what our current no-show rate is, what it was last week, what the change is in that rate. We're also looking at cancellation rate. We're also looking at locations and providers that have the highest cancellation and no-show rates. So you might look at your facility and realize that there are certain regions, maybe of the state or certain providers, that have high no-show rates. And we'll talk about what we can do to target those regions and drive that no-show rate down. But the first step in improving that no-show rate is transparency. You got to know what your no-show rate is, and you got to know what it is in real time. You can't wait till a yearly analysis and say, well, I wish we'd have done something. But with this, you'll get a free no-show assessment so you can track that information over time. This is incredibly helpful and powerful. And just to give an illustration, just in the last 2 weeks, we took a client and we analyzed their data, and we found that if they made a small adjustment in the time of day that they sent their text message reminder to their patients, that they would see a 0.35%, that's 0.35 of 1% reduction in no-show rate. Now you might be thinking, what's that? That's a small fraction. How can that impact our organization? But they're a medium to large size implementation. And so if you take that over the course of the year, we're estimating that they'll have roughly 1,000 additional appointments that would have no-showed simply because they adjusted the time of the text message. That's the kind of information we're getting, the analytics we're applying so that we can fine tune that and really drive that no-show rate down. So that puts you in that sweet spot in healthcare where the financial incentives line up with the patient safety incentives. We want these patients in, we want them in a timely manner. We don't want them lost to follow. So let's go here to the configuration screen of our organization here. I'm going to go ahead and upload our organization's logo. That will be helpful. This would go out on the corporate emails. And I'm going to scroll down here so you can see what our out-of-the-box settings are. All of this can be configured and changed. But what we have right here is we'll send an email reminder at 14 days before the visit. If I wanted to say send one at 7 days, I could do that here as well. 2 days before the visit, we'll call you. That's a voice call that you'll pick up and listen to. And 1 day before, we'll text you. All of that can be configured. We can turn on or off calls on holidays, calls on weekends. We also have an option to send an email as soon as the appointment is scheduled in Cerner. What that means, if the patient, let's say you have a checkout process, they go to the desk and they say, we'll get you in 6 months. They book that inside of Cerner scheduling. Right then, we'll send an email to the patient with a calendar reminder that they can put onto their phone so they know that that appointment is coming. We built this intentionally. We talk to clients and we have real experience with some of our competitors that don't offer this level of control. If you're a Cerner customer, you're used to being in control of your system. That's what makes it so powerful. In 2020, after the pandemic started, we had a customer that was using one of our competitors. They're now using our product. They needed to make urgent changes to their phone calls and to their text messages. They needed to say that you can only bring one visitor with you. They needed to say that you needed to wait in your vehicle and wear a mask until we contact you. So they reached out to their vendor and said, hey, can you make this change? The big box vendor. It took them weeks to make the change. Well, as you know, we were in the middle of a global pandemic and that was way too long. We'll show you how quickly you can make those kinds of changes in this system because you control it. It's yours. It doesn't even have to be in the hands of your IT department. What we find is even clinical operations folks will have access to this and make updates. We've simplified the process that much. What I'd like to do, though, is head over to our test panel. And what I'm going to do is select a resource. We'll select May Terry, and I'm going to pick our Oklahoma City clinic, and I'm going to pick an office visit. And what I'll say here is I want to test these reminders. Let's say you've gone in and you want to test the way that the physician's name sounds when they're called over the phone. This is a true story. We had a physician whose name was so mispronounced in the big box system that the patients thought they were going to a completely separate physician. And when you contacted them to say, hey, can you correct that? It was whack-a-mole. It was trial and error. They'd make a change. You'd have to wait a few weeks before more patients complained and said they went to the wrong doctor. And months would go by before you could finally get that corrected. With this, you test it out, you put in your phone number, your email address, and I'll hit send test. And that will send a phone call to me. My phone will ring with that phone call. I'll get an email, I'll get a text message. And then if I reply to that, you'll be able to see that information real time. And you'll see just how that integrates inside of the Cerner system. So now I want to hop over to the schedule view. So this schedule view will show all of your appointments for some date range by location or by provider or by some combination of them. I'm going to select our provider, May Terry. It's who we selected. And I'm going to search for the appointments. And what you saw is that I got a phone call. I didn't answer it because I'm here on this webinar. You can see some other patients and then their communication. It looks like our test patient up here at the top requested a reschedule. the next patient confirmed, and so forth. Now, we have this follow-up needed tab. And what this does is it lets me see all of the patients where I need to follow up. And you can configure how this will work for your organization. But these two patients requested to reschedule. So I can quickly see that. I can act on that. I can get that updated. It's real time. And then once it's updated in Cerner, then of course our system will update as well. Let's say also it's snowing. We're in Oklahoma City. We're getting a snowstorm right now. That's pretty unusual for us. And so if I needed to cancel clinic, how would I do that? Well, the way that we typically do that is we'd sit down, we'd print out some schedule, call our patients one at a time, hope to pick up, maybe text them if you have some kind of solution that does that. Probably you don't, or email if you have that solution. If you're lucky, they use the patient portal. With this system, I can come up here and click this button, send one-time text. And here's what I'll say. Due to the incoming bad weather, we're canceling clinic. We're going to call you to reschedule your visit. And I'll click send. Are you sure? Yeah, I'd like to send these. And it told me it's queued up the emails and the text messages based on whether or not we have that information for the patient. So I, with one click, sent emails and text messages to our entire patient population, letting them know that that we canceled clinic and that we're going to call them. That's an incredibly powerful feature for your organization. And then you can track all of the messages that you've sent by clicking see all. You can see all of the texts, emails, etc., that have been sent for your organization. Now, you might be saying at this point, that sounds great. It's wonderful that I can log into your system with some third login, see all that information, but I thought we're talking about Cerner integration. I do really want to quickly, though, show what the email looks like. This is just a screenshot. You can click here to confirm, click to reschedule or cancel. If you scroll down, we also include a calendar file, so you can add it to your phone's calendar and turn-by-turn directions to the clinic. Also, the text message looks something like this to where you can see that. But let's talk about Cerner integration. I'm going to share PowerChart for a minute and show you how this fits inside of PowerChart. And this is really the secret sauce because this is something that our competitors don't do. We know that because they've talked to us in the past to say, can you help us do this? I'm logged in here into PowerChart and you see that I'm looking at the exact same screen that I saw from our web app. We add a link here across the organizer section called Channels. You can call it Calvient, call it whatever you want. You click here, you can set your resources, locations, appointment type filters, and save those filters. And then I can come here, see all of that information in real time. That is an incredibly powerful feature. If I wanted to send the one-time email and SMS, I can do it right here from PowerChart. If I were in the patient's chart and I wanted to see all of our communication attempts to them, we have a tab you can put into the patient's chart. This is just using M-Page technology where you would, if you're familiar with that, where you'd pull up that tab, you can see the entire list of communication events for that patient. So we're fully Cerner integrated. You're getting data from Cerner. We're sending data back through this M-Page into your Cerner system real time. That's an incredibly powerful tool for you. Now I want to tease something else. You'll notice we have these three dots over here on the side, and I didn't click on those. That's not really relevant to what we're talking about. But our solution is so much more than reminders. We're just talking about no-shows today because of the huge financial impact that can have on your organization. But if I click on these three dots, you'll notice that I have a menu here to send paperwork to our patient. New patient form. Maybe I've got a form they need to sign and consent to, or maybe a follow-up or a demographics form. You can build as many as you want in our system. In fact, we'll build them for you as a part of the implementation. And with the reminders, we can send the patient paperwork so they can complete that in advance of their appointment so that when they show up and you see them on this screen, you have their insurance card. They can take that from home. We even have integration to perform eligibility against that insurance card before they even show up to your clinic. And that's all done before they show up. So they can show up, walk up to your desk, and you can say, yep, you're done. You've done everything. We've completed your paperwork. Have a seat. We'll pull you back into the room when you're ready. That's just a teaser because that's something that our solution will offer. I'm going to cut back to our slides here. Some of those cherries on top, as I mentioned, you get that administrative dashboard where you have total control of your system. I did mention that it's incredibly easy to change the messaging of your reminders at a moment's notice. In fact, I want to show you just how easy that is in our system. I'm going to share back to that screen and showcase how that works. I can come here to our configuration screen. I can go to our message templates. Let's say I wanted to update the text message template. I can come here and say, after we say call the phone number for changes, I'll say note. Please note you must wear a mask for your visit. I can change that, save that, and that is going to go out today on the text message reminders. If I wanted to test it, of course, I'd go to the test panel, put in my phone number. I could get that text and see how it looks. You can do the same thing for your email. You can do the same thing for your phone calls. I can come here, and if I wanted to, I can create a custom message template for Dr. Smith phone calls. Let's say Dr. Smith has a particular message he wants to read. You can come here, create a template just for him, and then associate it to him inside of our tool. That's incredibly powerful. That comes with our solution. You won't see that in our competition. A module that gives you total control of the system. That's a cherry on top. You don't have to contact us. Of course, if you do, we'll be more than happy to take your call and get your changes implemented into our system. You get mass email and texting, as we showed. You get online registration, digital paperwork, including electronic signatures. And the best part of all, if you're a Cerner client, there is no integration fee. We will integrate completely for free. We have the CCLs ready to go. And typically integration takes less than 2 weeks, and your IT team usually doesn't have to do anything other than give us the access we need to compile those CCLs and to make the changes inside of your Cerner system. And if you don't know what those things are, talk to your IT team. They'd be happy to point those things out for you. Let's talk about next steps. As I mentioned early on, we will complete a 100% free, no obligation, no show assessment. That screen you saw as we started, where you saw all the charts and the colors and all the locations and resources and what your no-show and cancellation rates were. If you were sending emails and reminders, you get analytics on that information as well. You can get that 100% for free, no obligation. You work with us, work with your IT team. They'll get us access to your system. We'll sign BAAs or whatever data security agreements we have to sign. And then we'll compile those scripts and we'll give you that no-show assessment. Maybe you want to do that because perhaps you're looking at your data and you don't know what your no-show rate is. We'll tell you what it is, and then we can tell you how we think we're going to reduce that rate by implementing our solution of calls and reminders and target them at the precise times that your patients need to see them. To do that, contact us at contact@calvient.com. We're going to run this through the end of January, so just make sure to drop us an email. Just say, hey, I want my free no-show assessment. We'll get with you. We'll get you the next steps, and we'll get that thing going. Absolutely no obligation, no signatures, no contracts, no credit cards. We're not in that's not that kind of situation. It's totally free, no obligation. This is our presentation today. I really thank you all for coming. If you have questions, I haven't been able to follow the chat, but if you have questions, and I invite you to drop those into the chat or raise your hand now. I'd be happy to let you voice your question, and then we can answer those. If we don't, you've got our email address, contact@calvient.com. If you just want to say hi, if you want to say what's the weather doing, we'd be more than happy just to visit with you. If you're interested in some of our other solutions like online registration or secure chatting between your team and to your patients, we'd be happy to showcase that for you as well. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We won't take any more of your time. We wanted to do a sweet and simple, down and dirty presentation of what our solution has to offer. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope you reach out to us. We hope we have the chance to partner together. Thank you.